Well, as we've been hearing, world leaders are gathering in New York, climate action very much at the top of their agenda. But are these meetings coming too little, too late? Well, I want to bring back in here our data dashboard, in particular, looking here at this. This is 11 years and 4 months. That takes us to January 2033 before we hit that 1.5 degree target. So with that in mind, I'd really like to start by asking you, Michal, 2050, it's too late, isn't it?
2050 is way too late. Everything that ticks on that board is another fraction of a degree, is another centimeter of rising sea levels, is another flood, is another hurricane, is more lives and livelihoods lost. If we were to end slavery, would we say, let's end it in 30 years? No. This is about cutting everything right now as quickly as possible.
And Michael, the UN says that even if countries stick to the pledges that they have made, temperatures will rise by 2.7 degrees by the end of the century. What does a world look like with temperatures higher by 2.7 degrees?
Well, we don't want to find out. That's a world where, you can imagine the hottest day you've ever experienced in your life. And that may be a typical summer day if we can, continue down this path. And, the most extreme weather events, the devastating weather events that we're now seeing play out, the superstorms, the wildfires, they'll become that more frequent, they'll become that more devastating. So we don't want to find out. And that's why it's so important that, we not kick the can down, the road several decades, as Michal said. We need to make sure that we decarbonize our economy now.
Yeah, and Michal, no major emitters have a climate pledge that keeps them to that 1.5 degree target. Some are close, but the US, for example, is a long way off.
So we have two problems. We have a commitment gap. So the promises that we made are not good enough to get us to where we need to. But then also we have an implementation gap. Even those that make those commitments aren't taking us far enough down the road. And that is true for all industrialized nations. And that is a huge problem that we need to tackle right away. Some of the leadership that the UK has to show now as the COP president is riling up those commitments, but also making sure that governments around the world are living up to their commitments.
Yeah,
and that is the real thing about...
Sorry to interrupt you there, Michal. The other big gap, Michael, is, of course, the finance pledges, $100 billion a year. That was agreed more than a decade ago in Copenhagen. By today's money, that would be $127 billion. So is $100 billion even ambitious enough?
Well, maybe not, but it's a foot in the door. And there's no question we have to provide incentives to developing countries, to India, to some of the South American countries, Africa. We can't afford for them to make the same mistake that we in the industrial world made. We can't afford for them to industrialize their economy by burning fossil fuels. And so we have to provide incentives that make it an easy decision for them to leapfrog past the fossil fuel stage, embrace renewable energy, build clean energy infrastructure to develop their economies.
Yeah, but I mean, the US isn't doing their part of the bargain here, though, are they? A recent estimate suggests that the United States is only providing 4% of its fair share of that finance. A long way to go.
Yeah, well, make no mistake about it. Look, we've seen some great pledges from the current administration. There are certain actions that the administration can take, executive actions, but Congress does control the purse string. So ultimately, we are going to need congressional support that codifies these commitments. And as we speak, we're still contending with this infrastructure package and in particular the reconciliation package in Congress, where all of the climate action really lies. And we don't yet have the votes to pass that, even with Democratic control of Congress. And so there's a lot of work to be done here, but the administration alone can't do it. We do need legislation that will codify these efforts.